All right. So one of the things I've wanted to do in this podcast, it's just talk about topics that are hot in law, in life also, because it's just a hot topic. And I like to call it like, how do I even like, it's just a slang to like, what do I do when this happens? And I guess to pivot into your immigration practice. So, alligator Alcatraz. Well, let's not be too narrow. Let's not be too broad about it. First of all, like legally speaking, how do you feel like? Well, to your knowledge, can we even do that? Is that okay?
Look, I feel like there was a whole issue between the state taking that land. That I feel like that land, first of all, if I'm understanding correctly, that's a land that belongs to, it's
protected.
It's protected area, right? And then also from Miami-Dade with Collier County. Like I thought that issue.
But are they hurting the land? Because my understanding is they just put up some beams and a tent. It's not really like a prison per se. It's just like a tent.
Right, it's like a tent and stuff. So I feel like they're not. Maybe they're not hurting the land now, but you're going into a habitat. You're going into an area that's swampy. That's, maybe I could go into the aspect of human rights.
Well, let's talk first about how hot it is out there.
Right. So tying that to human rights, like if you're gonna build a jail, you have to make sure. And I have a friend who's a correctional officer who he did mention to me like that is the one job that a lot of people do not want to take right now as correctional officers because of just the heat. Think about the mosquitoes, the bad rep, the people protesting.
So let me ask. I don't know. Like I said, I have limited knowledge on this. I just know that it exists. It's being treated like a regular prison.
Yeah.
No, so like essentially, instead of taking you to Chrome, they'll take you to wherever this is in the middle of nowhere.
A detention center, right?
So and it's hot right now in the city.
Right.
Imagine how bad it would be in the middle of the swamp where the waters, there's flies, there's animals.
Mind you, I'm not even as worried about the heat as I could be worried about the rains and a possible storm, hurricane. It feels like a hurricane every other day in Miami. And thinking how you have a detention center, and you have individuals who are being thrown in there. There's a swampy area a
That's what I'm saying.
away,
one rainstorm and it's flooding.
And then one rainstorm and it floods. And then what if you have all these crocodiles
or anything? There's snakes, panthers, iguanas, anything.
To me, like I understand the purpose behind, like, I mean, if I was there, if I was at that detention center,
the purpose
I would just say, send me to the border. I don't care. I'd rather be alive.
So in immigration, why are they being held there? Like, what is it, in between hearings, in between proceedings, or are they about to be deported?
Well, every case is different. So my understanding, it's basically a continuation or an extended of what the Chrome Detention Center is.
But are these people who got arrested,
they get put on
did a
hold,
crime, but are they just arbitrary? Like, what's going on? Like, I don't know.
So, for example, if you commit a crime, you're out of status, or if you have an immigration hold, or if you've been in jail, they send you there while ICE is processing your case. So sometimes
so it's not automatic deportation. You can get out of there, win your case, and then get out.
Yeah,
okay.
But the problem, so what I've been hearing also, I haven't had to encounter anyone there yet myself. What I've been hearing is that some other attorneys have been saying that they haven't been able to communicate with their clients.
I mean, there's no phones in the swamp, dude.
It's like all the systems are very slow. It's hard to reach.
But you can go visit. As an attorney, no?
But technically, legally you should.
Of course.
Right, but the problem is that it was very inaccessible.
Where is it?
It's so it's funny because it's actually on the Alligator Alley, the one that goes from here to
Tampa.
Naples, to
the
Naples.
West Coast.
And I had to go to a hearing up in Tampa about 2 weeks ago, and I didn't know it was being built. Like I heard about the plans, I didn't know it was being built. As I was driving, I see like the commotion of something being built, like the lanes. Right. So it's like kind of in the middle between, I want to say between the Miami side and Naples. Like
so literally in the middle of nowhere.
Literally in the middle of nowhere.
You know how dark it is? Have you ever driven Alligator Alley at night?
Yeah, no, I drove
it.
It's
terrifying.
I used to drive it a lot because I went to school there for a year. And I remember thinking, wow, this is a very dark and scary place.
Right.
And going back to the human rights aspect, because, you want to incarcerate someone who has an issue, who breaks the law. That I'm all for it because we're law people. But I feel like there's also a limit as to how far you might want to.
So why are they being put there as opposed to Chrome? Is Chrome full?
As opposed to where?
Like is Chrome Detention Center
full?
So
Chrome
is that what it is?
No, it's way over capacity. Okay. Yeah, it's way over capacity. So they had to figure out another location, and they used that. So. There's a way that I feel about it personally. But for example, one of my biggest fears, again, is what if a hurricane came? What if a big
I mean,
flood storm
I would
came?
assume, and this is just me assuming, they have an evacuation plan ready.
You know,
I mean, but then again,
they built it in 8
yeah,
days.
that's what I was gonna say.
How
But
do
I'm
you-
sure there has to have been some planning that we don't know about. Something. I'm sure they're not just arbitrarily gonna let people drown. Like
I hope not.
I
you
mean,
know?
I can tell you have
Right.
some feelings about this.
Right, I do, and it's because right when you fight for someone, you want them to have a shot. You want them to be able to have their time in
Yeah,
court.
I mean, you still have a shot.
Right.
You just have to wait there.
But the problem is that also when you're being held in inhumane position, we are in the U.S. This is supposed to be the leading country of the world, even when it comes to the detention centers. Technically, that's not a jail; that's a detention center.
Right.
So,
What's the difference?
Well, a jail, typically when crime involved or an issue as such, but a detention center sometimes it doesn't necessarily involve a crime. It involves an immigration issue.
So in between proceedings.
Correct. Like you might not have a crime, committed a crime, and you're still put in a detention center.
Right.
So.
Okay. Cool. I mean, I get it.
Right.
I see both sides of the argument. I'm
Right.
trying to be as objective as possible, but you just get a gut feeling. It just doesn't seem right.
It doesn't.
I don't
It's
like the term
problematic.
alligator Alcatraz.
I don't like it either.
I don't like.
You have people who go and take pictures in front of those signs. Like,
And I think it also opens up the door to a lot of trolling.
yeah.
Especially I
Right.
mean, regardless of political position, people are like, oh, let the alligators eat them. It's easier
Right.
than deporting them. Stuff like that. It's tasteless.
It's tasteless.
super
And
tasteless.
then you hear the whole argument, and mind you, this is where the immigrant in me kicks in, and you hear the whole argument of, oh, they shouldn't have come here in the first place. I don't necessarily agree with that because we all, one way or another, came here. And not everyone, I guarantee you, not everyone came here legally.
Right.
And I don't believe if their parents were put in that position or they were put in that position, they would think that. They would think it's okay to be put into that jail. So I feel my concern is that I feel like locally we are not doing as much. I'm not saying don't have a detention center. I am saying we should have a better facility or something else that's not put in 8 days.
But I mean, what
without
are
plan.
I don't even know if there's guidelines for this because I know in Arizona or one of those desert states, they have the same thing but in the middle of the desert. How's that any different?
Well,
I mean, so we're just getting more attention
Right.
because our governor's a little louder.
Right.
But Arizona, Utah, all these desert states, they have little complexes set up in the
The
desert.
only
What's
problem,
the difference?
the only problem is that in the desert, first of all, you don't have crocodiles, and then you
I mean,
don't-
yeah, but you have snakes.
Right, but then I hear you. But then I'd be more terrified of crocodiles than snakes. Me personally.
I don't know.
But
if a
then
crocodile
again,
bites me, I'll escape.
right. But then you don't have hurricanes as well. You don't have all these swampy areas. Like I get it because the
have
desert's also.
sandstorms.
But I mind you, I'm not advocating for either. I'm
not
saying
either.
both
I'm
of them are
I'm
horrible.
just being objective with the
I'm saying
arguments.
both of them are horrible, and then people are like, "Oh, you shouldn't have migrated here." Yeah, but sometimes there's individuals who didn't have an option, who were just brought here. Who were just brought to this country. And
All right, so if it's let's change the facts. Let's assume it's a jail for prisoners. Are you okay with that?
No, because you're innocent until proven guilty, and if it's prison. I don't think that then there's a human rights aspect of it. Like let people, do their sentence. Like
So you wouldn't want anybody living in the swamp.
No, I don't think it's humane. I think it's inhumane a little bit. And I and maybe I could also bring the fact of these people who were being brought to the U.S. and just placed here, and then perhaps it wasn't their decision to be brought to the U.S. and now they
Right.
find themselves they didn't even know they had a legal issue. And now they've introduced a bill. Congress introduced a bill who we're trying to find path for all these dreamers. This is dreamers have been a
Right,
big,
that's a whole separate topic, hot topic. But
right. But the problem is that and this is my take. If you are going to push so hard on policing immigration, then you need to push just as hard for doing the right things for the people who are doing the right things. And I think that's
how do you? I think that's too broad because how are you going to know what's what?
Well, you're paying taxes. You don't have a criminal history. You comply with society. You do everything as society is asking you, like the whole American dream.
Again, but that's also too broad because I mean, no
Right.
matter your status, you can still pay taxes if you're undocumented.
Right.
You can get a TIN number. You can still do it. You just stay home and you're, I guess, producing enough for society. It's not.
Right. But at the same time, that's the pursuit of the American dream. Like you were already placed here. You were
Yeah,
brought
but I
here.
mean, so the American dream's everyone. Like
Right.
even if you were born here, you can still chase the American dream.
Right.
So I mean, it's not to say nobody can chase a dream or only
Mm-hmm.
certain people can chase a dream. So I think immigration is
It-
always going to be a hot topic.
It's always going to be the scapegoat conversation. It's always going to be the I'm going to go the political conversation. It's always an easy
Right.
battering
I
conversation.
just don't like, regardless of your stance, I just don't like the argument. Why did you come here? Because let's be honest. There's certain countries
Agreed.
I'd rather be here in jail
Right. Mm-hmm.
than over in my country because you might die. So that's just the what you don't understand until you're in those shoes.
Until you're in the shoes
exactly.
and lived in those places.
Exactly. So I hate that argument
Right.
just off that basis alone.
Go
But
back to your country it's sometimes some people cannot go
sometimes
back
it's
to their
safer to stay in jail than it is, and you have to
Yeah.
understand that. Like obviously it sucks that they're in prison, but maybe it's the better option for them than being
Right.
deported immediately.
Right, and here's the thing. Something else has been happening, which is some people have been getting deported to the border. I mean, okay, let's say you
What
are
do you mean
from,
to the border? Like
So I'll tell you an example. You are Cuban national, and you're being deported. Now they're deporting Cubans, but if they previously didn't have a relationship where they deported Cubans back to Cuba, so they were just deporting them to the border in Mexico. So they would send them to Mexico. Imagine you've never been to Mexico and you're being sent there.
So there was this story the other day, like two criminals, like they were really bad people, like whatever, they got deported. I'm not in disagreement, but Cuba didn't want them.
Right.
And the border didn't want them, so they sent them to Sudan. Like imagine, just imagine, like
I mean,
imagine like a typical
it's
Cuban guy here.
tragic. No, and I've seen scenarios. Maybe like 10 years ago, I remember this group of Cubans. Something similar happened where they crossed and they were going through Central America, and they were stuck because the problem is I think Costa Rica. They were between Costa Rica and Panama, or Costa Rica and Nicaragua. They were in the border, right? So then what happened? That when they got to the border and they were in the cross path, Nicaragua didn't want to accept them. Of
course.
And Costa Rica was
they're
like,
stuck
stay
there,
there.
yeah.
So they're stuck. So it's one of those situations. When you send them to the border, of course, Mexico has kept a relationship where they are going to accept anyone who comes because they want to comply with what the U.S. is telling them
Right.
as they want to maintain good relationships. But that to me, again, that's also an issue because you're sending someone to, I don't know, Tijuana. I've never been to Tijuana. Imagine you send someone who's been here all their life and you send them to the border of Tijuana.
Well, I mean, it happens
No
a lot.
money.
Like they speak English, they don't speak Spanish, but technically they're here illegally and they get deported. I mean, it's unfortunate.
Right. And that's where I think maybe the system has got to improve a little bit because let's say you have these individuals who have done everything the right, went to school with us, graduated, have a careers, maybe they have an issue with their legal status, and now they're leaving their life with this fear
Okay.
of, wow, are they gonna stop me and send me back to my country? I haven't been to my country in 25 years. All my parents are here. They're all legal. And I'm still, because I aged out of my terms, I cannot legalize this way. I have an order of deportation.
I guess the argument there is like, so if your parents are all here legally, why haven't they made a claim for you? I mean,
Yeah, but it's not like that because here's the thing. A lot of times the person is on deportation order and you need to go in front of a judge to get that removed. The problem is that people are
so
scared.
why wouldn't I just say, you know what? Screw it. I'll get deported. I'll go back for a few months, and then I'll have my parents claim me back.
No, because once you get deported, like you're barred. They put a barring on.
Like
on
permanently?
reentry. Not permanently. It's usually a 10-year.
I mean,
but
that's like,
it's complicated. It literally changes the problem is that, and then once you get deported, they say, okay, you have a bar for 10 years, but good luck. You're likely not gonna come back because then your option to get a visa or to get a entry and you have to request waivers, it's very complicated. Like at that point, it becomes nearly impossible to be able to find a way back.
there has to be a way back.
You know, especially
That
with
seems
this
too absolute.
with this government right now, I don't, legally I see it as once you're out, they're
luck.
yeah, good luck. And I once
Okay, so as an immigration lawyer, do you see? Okay, so obviously the biggest hot topic: Latinos getting deported. What about Canadians, Europeans?
I feel like no one is safe.
But have you
Right.
seen it?
No, yeah.
I mean, me personally, I have no clue.
No,
Obviously,
certainly, and I feel like they're gonna use, especially because I have a Canadian border. I feel like they're just trying to put numbers because they ran a campaign on promise of we will deport the most people. And again, we've said it before. Obama holds that record, and I was very clear about that. But let me clarify that, because I said that one time. Obama holds a record of deporting criminals, people who were put on deportation order, and they went after them, not people who are being put on collateral damages, who are, for example, family members and friends who are caught all together.
Right,
That's
but
a
I mean,
whole
you also
different
said the word deportation, but what about actual? Because I mean, some people get detained and don't get deported.
Right.
But I wonder if those numbers are different. Because detaining, I feel, is a lot different. I
Right.
feel like being detained will uphold your life, like make your life a lot more complicated than just I get caught, I get deported within a week.
Well, now they have express deportations, which is actually something.
It sounds more humane, in my opinion.
Depends. All of them are pretty
I mean,
difficult.
I get it. You know, immigration has to be enforced
Right.
to some extent,
It
but
does.
I don't know.
I hear you, and I hear what the argument is, and I understand that. Look, I'm all for doing things the right way, but the actuality is that sometimes the law favors one group and disfavors
I'm
another
with you.
group.
I think it's easy to say just come here legally, but
Right.
that's not easy. If it's business immigration, you have to have certain money. As a tourist, you can only be here as a tourist. You can't work. It's stuff like that. Like obviously, I know some surface level
Students.
of it, but I think to say just you should have done it legally is not an absolute answer.
It's a tough one. Like
I
everyone
think-
has a different situation.
I think it's a survival issue sometimes, obviously, but I think it also needs to be controlled.
I agree. No, I agree. Every country should have their say on how things go, but we need to understand and also be humane about how we do things and how we police these issues. Like
I mean, but if you start being 100% humane and try to match the prisons as for criminals and immigrants, it becomes an issue of money. And where does the money come from?
I just don't think, like, for example, someone who gets stopped for traffic citation should now get put on deportation order.
I don't know. I think if you get stopped for a DUI, you probably should be.
Right, but a DUI is a criminal act. Then when you have someone gets stopped for having a because the problem is that now police officers are giving the authority under the
Right.
Trump
No, for
administration
sure.
to police it.
I don't know. Well,
They're
maybe
acting as
you're
ICE
right.
agents.
If I'm just speeding 10 miles over,
Right.
maybe it's
like,
not.
but the problem is that now police officers actually are becoming basically mini ICE agents.
Right.
But they're now asking people if they have legal status. That's directly profiling, because obviously they're going to be targeting who? Minorities.
I mean, I mean, at that point, you just open up a can of worms for everything. But I mean, they could ask anybody,
Right.
regardless of race.
Right.
Maybe they just do it routinely. You just only see the minority being
Right.
asked.
But unfortunately, it's creating maybe the effect of it. Now I can tell you, going from what the legality, but the effect of it is that this is affecting a lot of businesses locally. This is affecting a lot of commerce. This is affecting a lot of people here who don't want to take certain jobs. That
No,
they would-
100. And let me segue to my practice. So, workers' comp has an emphasis that your legal status doesn't matter. There's case law, there's statutory. All that matters is you were working. We can prove that you were working. But in the last few months, there's been a dip. And when I talk to these potential clients, they're like, "Look, what about immigration status?" I'm like, "Look, nothing's going to happen because of the case." But I mean, I can't guarantee nothing will happen in life, you know? And I've had clients who are undocumented, and it's all confidential, and I tell them nothing's going to get out.
Right.
But it's just, I think the fact that it could happen, because they see the news, XYZ gets deported from the courthouse, from the ICE office, whatever, and it just puts fear in them. And I think it's one of those things you just have to. It sucks because some injuries are brutal. Like I know a lady so it was called a burst fracture of her spine. Essentially, the vertebrae exploded. She needed screws, needles, and everything in her back, and she couldn't walk.
Right.
But she didn't want to do anything because of her immigration status.
Right. And here, I have a question
And that's
for
heartbreaking.
you. I have a question for you. And like, when they do a report, do they have to do a report with the police? Like,
Well, report is a broad word, so
Right.
all you have to do is make sure your employer knows. That's it.
Okay.
You don't have to make a report. All you'd be like, "Look, jefe, I got hurt."
right.
That's it. And then once you do that, we can do everything else normally.
But maybe they're even scared. And correct me if I'm wrong. Maybe these individuals are even scared to go to a clinic or hospital to get checked, just because they're like, wow, they're going to ask me for
the
my.
workers' comp clinics are now a lot more specialized in this, and they won't let anyone in unless you have an appointment or you're a patient. But
Okay.
that becomes an issue too, though. They don't want to go to the doctor because if they ask you, because they ask for your social.
Rightfully
They ask
so.
for your social and all these things. And if you put no, they're afraid that it's going to be public record.
Right.
But I try to assure them, because of this case, that'll never happen.
Rightfully.
But I also can't guarantee that once we're done with your case, what might happen. Or
Right.
like, If we lose your case, I don't know who's going to be outside the courthouse. I can't guarantee any of that, and that I think that's unfortunate.
Which, and maybe I could pivot right back, and I've seen in some videos, we've all seen them, some of these videos where you have, ICE agents dressed as me and yous, and they're outside of the court waiting for someone to get sent out.
Right.
An order was signed. There was a timeout. They went to the bathroom. They came back. They signed the order. They walked out, and there was an ICE agent already
Right,
there.
and I don't know the legality of that. Maybe it is legal, but I just think it's total.
Right. It's just, I guess, inhumane, because I feel like you also need to
I
get
think
time.
it's not even inhumane. It's a cheap tactic.
Right.
between you. Like even if it's
Right.
legal, whether the legality, like we can forget about that right now. It's just a cheap tactic.
Right.
Like, we just had a terrible day at court. We just have something great happen to them, and you're gonna ruin it by doing that.
Right.
At least wait, because they know where he is clearly. So why are you coming to the courthouse?
Right,
So-
right.